Hello and welcome to Lead in Love. This episode is in English because I have a guest who is German but lives in the United States, and we always talk about the things we talk about in English. It's my human design teacher and friend Analena Fuchs, who I will introduce in a second, but let's welcome Analena first. Welcome to the podcast. So nice you are here.
I'm so happy to be here, Marie. And yes, we could talk in German because I grew up in Germany, but we thought this message reaches more people when we also do it in English. And yeah, it's easier by me. Sorry, it's much easier for me by now to talk in English.
Yeah. So Annalena is a human design teacher and Gene Keys teacher. She's a mentor and coach. I met Annalena through a human design certification, which I took from her. And we were in that certification, I think after 1 year or so. It was a follow-up course I was in, like a mastermind, where we were sharing about our charts and how we could apply that to our businesses and so on. And at that time, I had a Vedic astrology reading with one of my Kundalini yoga teachers. And so the Vedic system follows the sidereal system, or the Vedic system is using data that is more accurate in the way that it's where the stars really are at the moment. So it's different data to what we get from what we call tropical astrology, the astrology that is used in newspaper horoscopes and the tropical human design. So I had this reading and I was like, whoa, this is so on point, and I felt so seen. And I told Annalena about it, or I spoke about it in the certification. I said, there's this Vedic or sidereal, which it works with accurate placements of the stars. And I also had this book, because now my husband and me, we live in the countryside, and I had this book about how to garden with the moon and in regards to where the actual placements of the moon and the stars are. So, and I had good experience with that, and I told you about that, and I think you said something like, "Oh, that's interesting," or something like that, didn't you?
Yeah, I found it really exciting in a way because I like to explore things. I'm in general a very open-minded person, and I had heard about sidereal years earlier because my teacher Karen Parker at some point also talked about it, but at that time I wasn't even interested in it. I was like, no, let me just stick with this one thing. This is too much. My whole body wasn't ready, I think. But when you brought it up, there was this like, ooh, my body, which I learned in human design, follow your body, follow your gut feeling. And I think I actually invited you to teach a session in the course because I was like, I don't know about this. You're the expert. I want to learn from you. And I think this is going to be win-win for everybody. So you actually did a session where you taught us a little bit about sidereal Vedic astrology. And I thought it was really cool. And I was like, I want to see how this actually changes the human design chart. And then I went on my little Scorpio digging journey. That's my ascendant. To just, okay, maybe there's something to it. And then I discovered that there were actually a lot of people already out there for many years that had already found out about this as well. And I didn't even know until this point what the difference was between tropical astrology and true sidereal or sidereal. And then I found actually true sidereal. That is the one that resonated the most with me personally, because I was a little bit shocked, to be honest, when I realized, my sun sign is not the sign that the sun was in when I was born. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, are we just like believing these things? We're not questioning it? Or then I was like, okay, but it's cool that there are people out there that are actually questioning things, and they're letting us know that there's different ways to look at astrology. And the one thing
So
that I
let's
learned from
recap.
human
What was
design,
your sun? So the sun sign is what we call like I am this, like in
yeah, right.
household astrology. Yeah. What was your
So
sun sign
my sun sign
before?
in the newspaper or tropical astrology, like I think that's all what we learned growing up, is
Yeah.
Aquarius.
Yeah.
And where the sun was actually at when I was born was in Capricorn. So it's still close. It's about a 30-degree-ish difference, more or less. But it felt deeper. I felt it at a deeper level. It was just this very subtle grounding energy. And one thing in particular with my astrology, and again, this is my own personal experience that I'm sharing here, is that in my tropical chart, I have a grand trine in all air signs. But I always receive this feedback from people that I'm so incredibly grounding and have such a calming energy. And I was always wondering, like, why don't I have more earth sign energy in my chart? And I was like, well, I mean, it's just astrology. I don't have to take it to the T. I can be whoever I want to be. Because there was a part of me that felt like I shouldn't be so grounding, you know what I mean? So I tried to mold
Oh, yeah.
myself into what the system said. And that for me was a little bit of a red flag, because I don't think that astrology, human design, or gene keys, or any of it should be here to behave as in a way that actually feels inauthentic so that I fit the system. Rather, I want to use these systems in a way that confirms something about me that I already know deep inside, but I keep holding back, you know? I don't have the courage to fully share with others. And then the funny thing that happened when I pulled up my true sidereal astrology chart is that this grand trine shifted into all earth signs.
Ha.
And I was like, yeah, that's me, girl. Like, it just was so spot on. You know, when you have a chiropractic adjustment, that's how I felt. Like, everything that had to crack needed to crack, like, just slightly. And then I felt like, oh, yeah, now I'm really in my body. So it was a more embodied experience. And not to say that anything in the tropical chart is completely off, because the actual way that the chart looks like is very, very similar in terms of the, what is it called, oppositions and
We're talking astrology chart right now, yeah?
yeah, we're talking
With the,
astrology
yeah.
chart. So it's just like shifted in different signs and different houses and stuff. So it was just that the true sidereal version resonated so much more. And then I was like, okay, how is this again really connect with the human design? Because human design, that's my jam. I have been doing this for 3-4 years already, and I love it so much. And it was changing people's life left and right, including my own. But I felt I could reach another level. There was something more. And especially also, what is my unique journey with human design? Because, you know, human design is very well out there. There's a lot of books about it. There's a lot of training, certifications, teachers about it. And I was really on this journey of finding my own way. And as I was following what lights me up, what gives me this sequel, this whole truth idea, when you brought it up, I felt finally on fire and like, I think I can really bring something new here. And again, there were already some people that had worked with us, and I shared about it and also saw the different sidereal versions. And actually, it was very hard to calculate this while we already thankfully had the cosmic human design, which was amazing. It was such a gift to have. But then we also discovered a couple of inaccuracies, and then I connected with Ethan Shementi for Mastering the Zodiac. Highly recommend you guys check that out as well if you're
Yeah,
curious
me
to
too.
see your true sky
Yeah.
chart. And then I went on this journey where we had this focus, we want to get these calculations right. And I'm so happy and grateful to say, after we work with a few different variations, very similar, but slightly different, because in human design, we have much smaller nuances with variables and lines and gates and such, that, you know, the charts changed a little bit. That was very, very helpful also not to over-identify with any chart and focus more on the overall experience. And yeah, now we actually have a fixed way, because Ethan Shementi in July of 2025, this year, as we're recording this, he officially wrote an article that was published on his site about what he calls the midpoint method. And he actually talks about how he exactly calculates this with the stars and then the midpoint. And he kept telling us for some time, hey, you guys have to wait a little bit, you have to be patient, but this is the best we have for now. So, you know, but people always want to know right away. And it wasn't actually easy to go with this, but it felt so strongly my path. That's what I'm here to do. And I went with it. And then also I obviously created a new certification where I was like, you know what, I want to bring this out into the world because that's what's unique about it. Like, how can we look at the chart from different angles? And it's up to the people what resonates with them, you know? But
Yeah.
my experience was so profound. Yours was so profound. All of my clients were so profound. And everybody kept asking me about true Sidereal. You know, when all of a sudden there is so much feedback all of a sudden from the
Yeah.
universe in some way, I felt, okay, it's this divine guidance by God letting me know I need you to do this work.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course, because I love it anyways, you know?
And I was so happy to see that you ran with it, and like sort of I gave you some information or one information, and at that time I really didn't have the bandwidth to go deeper in it. I knew this cosmic human design side, and for me it was always like, oh, it's a different story, but for me it was a lot of the time it was this, oh, am I a generator or a manifesting generator? And because I somehow devalued the generator and thought, oh, it's better to be a manifesting generator. Anyway, that's my story. And but for me it was, I was so admiring, or I'm still so grateful for that you took it and ran with it and discovered all these things and met Ethan and you studied with Ethan and so on. And so, but I think if it wasn't for you, I don't know if we had this very accurate way to calculate the human design chart now. I'm sorry to
Um,
say.
yeah, maybe. I mean, I was just like, I want to make this work. And so we finally
Yeah,
have like one way how to do it.
yeah,
And I'm just so grateful that, you know, it was also these things. This is something in general for everybody listening. When you're really meant to be doing something, it doesn't mean it's always really easy because it was challenging. You know, especially like when everybody wants to know what is the exact value, how we're going to do this, and now this changes. And like, yeah, we have to be patient. The one thing we had to really immerse ourselves into is patience. And now it's such a beautiful thing to, yeah, be at this point where, you know what, I can also work with different charts. I don't get attached because it was a little bit, I think we talked about this also in the certification, like a ego death. Because we can, as humans, so easily over identify with things and then we box ourselves in. And I think that has been happening for me, for many people in my world, that we started to decondition at such a deep level that we're like, no system. If it's the Enneagram, I mean, there's so many things, right? Are you using it to label yourself and have an excuse not to do something? Or are you using it just to freaking empower yourself and be all of who you are
and
without
that is,
holding back?
yeah, that is so, so important. And I think, like, I'm now in Annalena's certification, and we all discovered that somehow we were identifying with our old chart at some point. And I think it was very common in human design, or how it was, maybe not how it was taught, but how it trickled down, how it was diluted and Instagrammed, that people were put into boxes and that people put themselves into boxes. I so often spoke to clients who said, oh, I can't do that, I'm a projector. Oh, I can't eat this. This is not how I should eat. Or I should not eat in bright light, or I should not eat with other people. Uh, so human design at some point also, I was witnessing that, became not a tool for liberation, but another tool to box oneself in. Yeah, and this over identification is, it was so strong with a lot of people also. I mean, of course, I had it as well, but like, okay, this is better than that, and so on. And I love how this development went through different iterations. So the charts changed. Like, okay, now we're this. A few months later, okay, now this is your chart, and you really taught us to, or you modeled, I would say, to say, okay, I'm now going with this, and let's go. Da, 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 da. And so what I'm out, like at one point people were saying to me, but what does this even mean if it's so arbitrary? Does it even say anything anymore? What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Because that only happens though when we see it as separate. And I think that's a gift that I have in a way. When I studied human design, even before I learned about the sidereal, from all the experiences I had from my own human design experiment and then also working with so many clients that, yeah, we have this saying, oh, if you are a manifestor, you're here to initiate. If you're a projector, you have to wait for the invitation. You take that to the extreme, and it's really working so against you, because if only manifestors can initiate, the world is not going to function. If projectors fall into, I can only take action if I'm going to get invited, it's not going to work. It's so disempowering. And I really learned through the years that these strategies and authorities we have learned in human design, they apply to all of us in some way, because we all, so the projector strategy and authority, for example, just the strategy, wait for invitation, that only applies to major life decisions, of which we make like 5 or 6 or 7 throughout the course of our lives, like a new relationship, a whole new career change, and things like that. So it's immensely impractical for daily life. As a projector, you still respond to things in the moment. You still have intuitive hits. And there are actually also times when you initiate something. So I really started to see the shadow of the system. And I think that was meant to be for a reason, right? And how actually, like you also said, people were actually more disempowered through the system because, oh, I cannot do this. And people were having excuses like, oh, I cannot run a business because I cannot talk to people. And I had a lot of people apologizing to me that they weren't invited to talk to me. And I was like, you don't have to be invited to talk to me because you're a projector. Like, where did you learn that? So the way the system started to be taught was so extreme and so radical. And, you know, if we look at this in the context of coaching in particular, it's good for selling because people want other people to give you the answer, which is super disempowering, right? And my whole approach has always been like, I want to empower you so you're good on your own. I want you to learn to trust yourself and be a sovereign being, not a codependent puppy. Because that's really what I saw. And I had some experiences in the human design space where I was really like, this is not how I want to do it. And the thing is, this is not just in human design. This can be with religion. This can be with so many other things where we put something on a plateau and outsource our inner authority. Why? This system is actually, the whole purpose is for us to step into our own inner authority where you do trust yourself. And no, not every decision is the same. There are times where you respond with your gut in the moment. Also, if you have an undefined sacral. It just may take time through the undefined center to learn how that works for you. It may not come as natural to you. And so I really started to see, which is something that my teacher always said, Karen Parker, and she has been teaching human design for almost 30 years. She knew Ra. And the other person that I really resonate with is Richard Rudd from the Gene Keys. Both of them, they knew Ra, have a super long history also with human design. And both of them came with this truth that they shared independently. You have all of the charts. Richard Rudd with the Gene Keys also says that, you know, yeah, you have your Gene Keys profile, but you're going to learn eventually how, at the end, it's not like a joke, but all these 64 archetypal energies, which in human design we call it the 64 gates. In the Gene Keys, we call it the Gene Keys. In the I Ching, we call it hexagrams. This is, for me, universal wisdom. And when I started my human design journey, there was also something that just happened organically. Yeah, I learned about the types and it was cool. And I also did readings the more general way. But what really fascinated me were these 64 gates. And I started to share them on my Instagram every 6 days as the sun was transiting to the other one. And I started to learn. I really contemplate these energies. I got all the books and I read all these different interpretations by Karen Parker, by Chetan Parkin, by Richard Rudd, and Jenna Zoe. Everybody has a little bit of a different twist. And I was like, that's where all the wisdom is. It's not so much about the type. It's not even so much about the center. yeah, that all has its validity, but you can be a projector or any type, and you have certain gates that are all about initiation. And if you don't fully lean into it because you have this conditioned perspective that only manifestors can initiate things, we're not using this wisdom in the right way. And so for me, these 64 energies really had all the answers. And I studied it deeply. I shared them, I think, 2 or 3 years on and off on my social media. I also created energy healing sessions for each of these 64 gates. At the time, I was using infinity healing. And I think that was my own way of also to decondition, you know?
Wow.
And I think it was my job to also bring this awareness of how we can, with any system, with any tool, we can really fall into the shadow. And the beautiful thing is that I'm actually grateful that it brought up so many shadows, because before we step into the gift, into the higher expression of our divinity, we have to face these shadows. That's a human thing. It's actually normal. There's nothing bad about it. And nobody is better or worse because they're in the shadow and they're in the higher expression, right? I'm not any more wise than you are. We came
I'm
here
just,
to
yeah.
learn this, what it means to be human.
I'm just thinking that how similar it is with how something like Ayurveda was perceived and diluted down in the West. The Eastern system clearly knows everyone has everything. But in the West, the first thing is that, are you this or that? Which type are you? Yeah. And
Yeah,
it
the
seems to be,
and those
yeah,
kind of
just
things.
yeah, exactly. Are you Vata, Pitta, or Kapha? And oh, I'm this, them, and it goes so fast into this boom, I'm this. And I remember party talk where there's, oh, human design, yeah, I'm this, yeah, then I can't do that, yeah, you're this, then da, da, da. And it's so interesting how, it's different factors, yeah, it's the Western mind, probably, it's the attention deficit we get through social media, then it's the social media that reduces like what we can take in from social media. It's also like it's less, but we can't really take in the complex things, but it's like, oh, it's this and that, this or that. But it's so interesting that actually what you're saying, that what's really behind is that we are all the whole chart, and that we like wherever the sun is, it maybe this energy is active. And so if that is the case, what's even, you said it, some people have certain gates then. So is that also, and I know the answer, that's a rhetorical question, is that also how you start your readings now?
Yeah, I focus more on the gates. And I want to say every chart has a beautiful story. I can take my tropical chart still, and there's a lot of wisdom in it, right? I can take my true sidereal chart. We also have life cycle charts of, your Chiron return, your Saturn return, your Uranus opposition, even your annual solar return. And the thing is that the birth chart is very powerful because for some reason you were born at a certain time and then you get the specific chart. And if you start working with your tropical, I did in the beginning, and it served me greatly. And then my Analena journey took me to true sidereal, and everybody's journey is different. That certain elements of these 64 gates get highlighted that are ultra important to you. It's almost like you have this big puzzle and you need to focus on a few particular things to unlock the whole. Because I was really drawn to some very, very specific energies that were very, very powerful for me at this point in time. Especially for me with my tropical chart, there was a very powerful message of leaning more into my feminine. With the Sphinx incarnation cross with gate 2. So it was powerful. And then when the other chart came into my life, the true sidereal, it shifted. There were still some energies that were the same, but then there were some other energies that really, really needed my attention at this point. And there is no, just like we have centers in human design, we have defined and undefined centers. We have such a black and white thinking in the community that I often see like, oh, you have an undefined circle, you don't have energy. You have a defined circle, you're here to just work and work and work. No, guys, that's not the case at all. It's just like how you learn it is different. We all have energy, the way you access it is a little bit different, but we're all here to learn about it. And actually, when you have something undefined, you become extra wise about it. So, bringing back also to the question before, like, yeah, okay, what's then the whole point of it? It gives you this blueprint that is inviting you into this universal wisdom, which for me too is the wisdom we read in the Bible, the wisdom that Jesus has brought to us, a lot of different other philosophies you see out in the world. Human design has elements of Kabbalah, of the Hindu chakra system, also quantum physics. It's all the same message. And there's also certain gates. They're different numbers, but they have a very similar message. And guess what, too? These gates are also connected through our positions in the sky. And the same in astrology, too. Yeah, you may be a sun sign. Let me say, I am this. And let's just think about that for a second. Like, taking the traditional approach, like we have 8-9 billion people, and we have 1/12 is Aquarius, and they all feel the same. Probably not. You get what I mean, right? So it's just one of these nuances. And also, we have transits. Every year, the sun goes through all of the signs. The sun goes through all of these 64 gates in the sky. And then some planets that are, especially planets that are moving very, very slow, like Pluto, they stay in a gate for a really long time. So this is an energy we all learn as a society.
As a generation, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we are here all to learn this wisdom of these gates. The only question is, with the gates, with the channels, with the centers, even the human design, I call them archetypes by now because I have just seen how it's not just this or that, it's this and. It's just like you may have a stronger emphasis on one of the types at some point that has a clear message for you, like generator. Are you listening to your gut? Or are you fully people pleasing, huh? Right? So it's like, are you in the shadow of this energy? Or are you in the higher expression? It's not, oh, I have this is better. I have this is worse. I wish I had a defined center such and such. No. Your chart, whatever it is incredibly beautiful. And the more you understand these 64 energies, this whole like black or white thinking, for me, just dissolved.
Wow. That is so beautiful. And as I hear you are saying that the whole wisdom is in the 64 gates, and it's the 64 what is it in English? In German, it's Wandlungsphasen, how things change in the universe, the phases, how things change in the universe. And it's our task, not necessarily like some people do it, some people don't, but we can sort of unlock the wisdom of the universe by understanding them all on a deeper level. And our charts, whichever they are, give us a path inwards. So, okay, start here because that maybe the like because we are so conditioned through how we grew up and so on that this may be the way for us to start learning. Is that somewhat
Yeah.
how one could phrase it?
Yeah, it's like your access point, right? And it has a particular message. So, for example, my current chart, I'm a 5-1 generator in the now final official true sidereal calculation. And I have always resonated with the projector. And you know this, right? I think I've told you that for years. In the tropical, I always was saying, oh, it's my incarnation cross, because my incarnation cross was all projected energies. I know this is a little bit of advanced human design talk here right now. But also in my current chart, I'm a generator per the human design system, but I have more projected channels than I have generated channels in my chart. So that's why when you really understand the depth of a human design chart, and the other thing that obviously brought a lot of clarity to me why I felt like this is when I dug deeper over the years that in the beginning there were no types in human design. That was done later on, I think, to make it more commercial. Because,
Oh, that's interesting. It
there
worked.
is some, yeah, no, and let's be real, it's not like only a bad thing, because for me too, when I first found out I'm a manifesting generator in tropical human design, I was like, oh my God, finally, like, there's nothing wrong with me, that I'm all over the place, I'm multi-passionate. But now, 5 years later, I'm also like, that's also a really big shadow that I have, you know? And I actually, when the generator chart came into my life, I was really being asked, and I'm still in this process, to focus more. Because I have always
Wow.
been a very like jack of all trades kind of person. Even when I went to school, I always like I had A's in almost everything, and I was admiring people that were like really really good in one thing, and I was like I don't know what to pick, because I can technically do anything. And human design was the first time in my life where I felt it in my body, this passion, this like I felt like I remembered something that I didn't even have to learn about it and study. I still studied it, but it was just like how I see and interpret the system. I didn't learn that anywhere, right? That's is something from within me. So it has really given me this idea of what it means when you access your own inner wisdom. And the 64 gates also, this is something in the gene keys. So the gene keys have grown out of human design, right? Richard Rudd used to be a human design teacher until he also had this realization at some point where I think he realized his date of birth that he was given by his parents wasn't correct, and then he all of a sudden he has a totally different chart, and then he also had this ego death where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I over-identified, and I was like, yeah, I had the same experience. I think that's one of the reasons I resonate so much with him. And he keeps talking always about you, all of the lines, you, all of the 64 gene keys. We have these in our DNA. And I think there are some that at some points need more attention. Just like we have seasons in nature. Sometimes it's dark, then it's light. We have different phases we go through. I think especially for us women as cyclical beings, we can especially relate to that. And we have different tasks, and there may be one person that really is here to bring this projector energy into the world, where it's like, don't force things, trust, and allow yourself to be invited. But we can also take it much to the extreme. And there are other people that are here to bring more initiating energy into the world. But are they going to only initiate and nothing else? No. We have to be so careful not to fall into this extreme and this black or white thinking, and also not to go into this is right or wrong. It's about your unique experience. And the only thing that I care about with human design is that it empowers you to be your most authentic self, because that is special, that is unique. You were given this by God. You were created in a very unique way that nobody else has access to. And we will never compete with another. That's also so awesome, right? And, you know, one thing that I also love with you and I think with the calculations now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are a 5-1 generator in tropical. I'm a 2-4
Yeah, I was
manifesting
just thinking
generator
that. Yeah.
in tropical, and now we're exactly switched. In true
Yeah.
sidereal, you're a 2-4 manifesting generator, and I'm a 5-1 generator.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's like this beautiful
It's like we
synchronicity.
switched identities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we still had such a wildly different experience
Yeah.
being a 5-1 generator, and you being a 5-1 generator is still a whole different experience. You can even have the same chart and be twins, and it plays out differently, because it's also your conditioning, if you believe in past lives, your upbringing. You are a unique soul here on earth. You know, so, and at the end of the day, it's like there's nothing here that gives you the answers. Everything is here to help you realize that you have the answers. And the more you trust yourself, and that's what human design has been doing for me, because again, these 64 gates, archetypal energies, genius archetypes, how I like to call them, all the wisdom is there. And you just focus on one of them for a longer period of time, and you watch the magic unfold in your life.
Is there a way you would? Oh, I would like to know two things. So let's see what's good to talk about first. Is there a recommendation you have for someone who wants to dive into that chart with that approach? Like which gate to look at first? That's one. And the other question is, tell us a bit more about these genius coins, as you call them, with the gates that are opposite to each other, and your journey with that, and what unfolded for you there?
So first with a chart, so for everybody right now, because you may also be confused because you probably have only seen the tropical. If you go online and you want to pull a chart, you will get the tropical. If you're interested in the true ideal, reach out to Marie, reach out to me, we will guide you there. We're in the process right now to have an official website so you can all do this. It's coming. There is no one way. I actually invite you to look at your chart and trust your intuition and see which gate pops out. In general, what you can really start with is your incarnation cross, which is the sun to the left and the right. It's called the conscious and unconscious side, and then the earth. So this is your incarnation cross. So that has really, really big relevance. So that's something you could start with. But there's no right or wrong way. Like, there's only your way at the end of the day. Yeah.
And those are also the genius coins, right? They are opposite each other.
Yes, so the sun and the earth are, so in astrology we call this oppositions, right? In the gene keys, they call it programming partners. And so going back now to what I call the 64 genius archetypes and then the 32 genius coins. So let me explain. I think I said already that I was fascinated by the 64 gates. And I got all the books, I was reading them, and then writing my own Analena interpretation of it in my own words. And people always told me, like, wow, I have never really understood this gate so well. There were many. I think you were one of them too. And I was like, oh, I guess that's kind of cool, because I didn't want to copy anything, right? But I wanted to learn these energies, you know? And I read something and then I write it in my own way. Of course, it's inspired by existing wisdom. And then 1 year after human design, I was really drawn to the gene keys. Like, really. In the beginning, gene keys was a full body no. I think it was too poetic for me at the time and too deep. I wasn't ready for it. And then a year later, I heard Richard Rudd talk at a human design conference, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I dove in. I also took all the trainings, got certified as a gene keys guide. And wow, it was so enriching, this wisdom. But then again, I had people tell me all the time, I don't get the gene keys. It's confusing. And I was like, I get it, because I was there in the beginning. But at some point, it just clicked for me. And then in my trainings with my clients and the memberships I had, I often gave people some insights about their gates, gene keys, however you like to call them. And they were telling me, like, wow, like, you explain it in a way that really makes it click. It's so practical. Like, can you give me more? And you were one of them too. Like, hey, could you maybe write something a little bit more practical?
Write a book.
Yeah. So it was several people. One of them was you. And I was like, yeah, okay. Because again, I was like, yeah, but it's not unique because it's already out there and da-da-da-da-da. But then I was like, okay, I have to do it. So I basically made it in a very practical way where it's inspired by the gene keys, it's inspired by the human design gates, and most importantly, I do it in a way that's practical. And then what I realized especially from my gene keys contemplations, is that when you have one gate in your chart, so in the incarnation cross, there are already oppositions in the sky, they are programming partners. So what this basically means is if you are in the shadow of one, it will also be feeding the shadow of the other. It's kind of a feedback loop. So in order to really master an energy, and at the time, let's take my tropical, my conscious sun is the 13, and the conscious earth is the 7. So the 7 and the 13, for me, it really only click when I look at both together as a whole. And then I was like, you know what? This is like a coin. And I was like, if I have a coin and only one side, it's not a coin. It's incomplete. And then when you look at other gates in your chart, this is really how when you and I also had a reading earlier this year, when we did the true sidereal chart first, you know, you have one gate activated, for example, in your conscious Mercury. And I started to also bring in the other side of the coin that is in the sky, because you can focus all on this one energy, but if you're in the shadow of the other side of the coin or the programming partner or the opposition in the sky, it's very hard. And I found it was really unlocking things for myself and my clients when I gave him a more holistic view of that. And then because I'm also a little bit artistic. I went to a Waldorf school for many years. I couldn't appreciate it when I was a child, but now I think it's super cool because there's so much more connection with nature. So I ordered these little wooden coins, and I got
And
a little.
this is the love bit for this episode. Annalena brought something.
Yes. Yeah, I brought something, you guys. I'm kind of like excited like a kid right now.
Yes.
And then I got I forgot what it's called. It's
A wood
pyrography.
burner. A
A
wood
wood
burner.
burner, a wood burner. Yeah, there's a fancy word for it that I don't
Lötkolben auf
remember.
Deutsch.
Yeah, Lötkolben, exactly. And I used to see this at the Christmas markets in Germany when you bought like a wooden board Brettchen, right, to eat your bread on, and then they would make your name into it. So I knew it from like back in the day. And then what I did is I created these. So this little bag here, little wooden coins, and these are 32 coins, and each has two sides. So let's take one, 58. And you flip it around, and this is a 52. So this is in the Gene Keys, we would say it's the programming partner of each other. In astrology, it's an opposition. And I call it a genius coin just to really make it clear. Like, you have to look at this holistically. And my conscious Mercury is 58 in my true sidereal chart, actually. And it's helped me immensely to also look at the energy of the 52, because 58 is like this joy of mastery and satisfaction and repeating things and becoming masterful over time. And the shadow here is dissatisfaction, right? And then the 52, the shadow here is all about stress. So that's very helpful to understand. Like, if I have a lot of stress in my life, it's actually very hard for me to step into into satisfaction. And how slowing down, and it's all about stillness. It's a little bit like a Buddha energy, the mountain, also in the I Ching, the 52, right? So, and I can bring a joyful energy when I talk, right? It's also powerful. It comes off the root center, but it has to be grounded in this stillness and in, okay, what do I actually focus on? And then, of course, because I have been studying human design for so long, the 52 in the human design chart, that gate looks to the gate 9, which is about focus. So when I am all over the place, this manifesting generator archetype, being completely stressed, I'm not going to tap into the 58, the satisfaction of this energy. So
It makes so
I have
much
to find
sense
my
to have
focus.
the both of the poles. Like, we cannot change anything up there if we don't like, just look at a tree with the roots and the branches, and
Yeah.
how could we expect one side to change if we don't look at the other side? Yeah.
You know what just came to me as you were talking? Two things, actually. So with a tree, it would be like, rather than nurturing the soil and the roots of the tree, we would try to paint the leaves green. Once it rains,
Yeah.
it goes away, right?
Yeah.
And with this, what it reminded me of is, so when I was growing up, I have always been a big fan of homeopathy, and I'm not a doctor or anything. Like, you go do what you do, and please listen to your doctor, right? I always have to make these disclaimers. But I find, and here in America too, we have something called functional medicine, where people look at the human from a more holistic perspective, rather than, oh, there's this isolated problem and we're trying to fix it. No, what's
Or
the
get
root
rid of it.
cause?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how is this all connected? Maybe there's some symptoms, and I love acupuncture, for example, the whole like Chinese medicine and things like that. And that's how I feel I work with human design. Like a functional
Wow.
practitioner, like a homeopathic approach, a very holistic
Root cause.
looking, yeah, at the whole. And I think, I mean, this is the first time articulating it this way.
Yeah.
Never came to me, honestly. But I think that's why I see such a profound transformation in my clients.
Yeah. And
So
the other
much
one
more.
is like having the boxes of, okay, your projector, this is your box, this is your profile, this is your box. That's more like fast food.
It's like take a pill to suppress the symptoms so you feel better in the moment.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh yeah, oh my God, I never ever have to initiate again. What a relief.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna go through life playing super small because you're actually in a very disempowered energy, So, yeah. That's really, and it's just cool, like,
Yeah.
for me that I realized, like, it's a really holistic, because I have seen the transformation with my clients, and sometimes I'm like, why is this so powerful?
Yeah, because you
And then
teach people how to do it themselves from the
yeah,
inside.
I don't want to have people be dependent on me. I mean, look, I work sometimes with people for longer periods of time and we go really deep, and transformation also takes time, right? It often goes beyond. Like, I work with clients and then years later they come to me like, oh my God, the work we did was like life changing and thank you so much, you know? Because we humans, we want to have these quick fix results. And you can get that, but it's usually not sustainable, you know?
Yeah.
And in my world, it's usually, hey, we go slow, we do things more sustainable. It's not necessarily what the ego wants in the moment, but there is this really, really profound, just the transformation that I've seen in you over the last 6 months.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We could go on, and I feel so honored to finally have you here on the podcast. To me, it's just a very, not just a special connection, but to me, you are very an important teacher also. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to iterate that I'm currently in Analena's certification. I'm doing a human design certification for the second time because yeah, the first time around was still, I don't want to say the old way, because we made this dichotomy of, oh, the old way is you put it in. It was never about putting us in boxes, but you have evolved so much, and so I really felt the call to join again, because I felt like, okay, I want to be on the pulse. I experienced a reading with you, and I just wanted to learn what you exactly what you just described. This, okay, let's unfold here with this gate, and what's the opposite of that, and oof, how does that play out for you, and so on. So this mastery level that you're at, I felt like, oh, there's something to it, and you don't get it anywhere else. And I hear you are now offering the certification again. Tell us a little bit about that, if you like.
Yeah, and it's again thanks to you guys, because you have been asking me on the live calls like, when can I think it was Nick. She's one of the beautiful humans. I hope it's okay to mention her name. When can I shout it from the rooftops? Like, how amazing this is. And I was just like, yeah, really, I'm meant to be doing this more, you know, and get it out to more people. And also, I have seen you guys' transformation. We had a little conversation before this podcast where you shared with me how you finally feel like you're so much better with stress in your life, right? You have been letting go of things and getting out of this hustle and grind and people pleasing. And that's huge. And the level of confidence you guys have with human design readings and how engaged you are in the community. And we just had, like, the other day, somebody in the group asked, shared a human design chart, and you know, I was about to share my 5 cents on it, but I'm like, let me just, and you guys, you nailed it. Everybody brought such a beautiful perspective that I was like, there's nothing even to add for me. And that is a level of satisfaction for me as a teacher. And again, I'm not better than you guys or anything, right? Like, we have
Oh, you've just done it a bit longer, yeah? And
yeah, and
your role was a different one. You were there at this
yeah,
point to, as I
yeah,
always say, you took this and ran with it and created
yeah,
this, so that we now have the way to calculate the true sidereal chart. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
it's as you said it with this, with the human design chart. We can't compare it. It's a different. You're a different. Even though we swapped our profile and and
Yeah, yeah,
type,
yeah.
we are
You stole
different
my profile.
animals. Yes, then you stole mine.
Yeah, so yeah, going back to the certification. So it's a 9-month program. You're gonna learn how to be an amazing human design teacher and reader, because I really want to empower you to bring this knowledge out into the world in your own unique way. And also work with any charts. And if you resonate with tropical or true sidereal, it doesn't matter. You can apply anything. But in this certification, you really learn how to use both. And I will always keep you updated on what's next on this evolution, because we're in a very, very exciting time. And you may have never even heard about what true sidereal is. So you know if this is for you. You know it in your body, you know? Like, I don't need to convince anybody. I will do my best over the next few weeks to share more about it on my social media. I mean, you were so kind to invite me onto your podcast, which, by the way, we had been planning this for probably 9 months already, and it never felt right. And then the other day when I asked, hey, let's record a testimonial, like, hey, let's do the podcast. And it was just divine timing, like going with the flow of things. And yeah, so if you feel called to dive deeper into human design and you are like an open-minded person that can see different perspectives, because I'm not going to teach you the cookie cutter human design way. You can order a book on Amazon to do that. You know, it's going to be a much, much more profound way. And rather than putting anybody in the box, I'm going to unbox it all, you know? And I mean, you're going to get all the, because I know we want to have like the studying and the learning. You get 9 modules of content. I'm also a very responsive person. When anything is missing or you want something else, I usually create an extra video for those kind of things. And we have a vibrant community where you can connect. You can ask questions. I love questions. That's always my funnest thing to do. And we're going to have 9 months of live calls bi-weekly, so you have time to integrate. I think that's honestly where the most magic happens. And the more you engage, the more you ask questions, it's a rebirth. Let's put it this way. So if you're looking for
Wow.
that, come join us.
Yeah, and I can only attest to that. So my big recommendation to join Annalena's certification. Where can people find out about it?
So best is on my Instagram, which is analena.fuchs, Fuchs. Means fox, by the way, for all the English speakers. Sometimes hard to pronounce, I know. But there you will find either a wait list or when enrollment opens. You can ask me questions as well. And also my website is analenafuchs.com. But Instagram is where I'm mostly responsive. I'm not much on social media, but that's the one platform that I have been enjoying for many years. And yeah. And I have a podcast too where I have done a lot of human design content over the years. And that's also something, of course, like it has been my journey over the last 3.5 years. So there's a lot, and there's a lot more to come in the future. So you can Google me. You're going to probably find me everywhere. It's kind of scary how many sources are online these days. I have a YouTube channel as well. So
And
yeah,
we will
Google my
link
name and you'll
we will
find
link
me.
to all that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Not to all the Google links.
Yeah. But anyways, if you
Yeah.
have a specific question for me, send me a DM on Instagram. You can also link my email at the bottom, Marie. So that's also a way to get a hold of me.
Great. Thank you. So we've had a long conversation, a profound conversation, and I would like for us to both pick out like what's one gem we take from it now. And either of us can go first. What's one
You
insight?
go first.
I go first, yeah. For me, it was. Now, let me think 1 second. Slow down. Yeah, for me, it was really beautiful to find how we found this imagery of the tree. How you said like, oh, the opposites, and if you water just the root, if you don't water the roots but paint the leaves green, that's in a nutshell. It's really your approach, and that's what makes it so unique, and that's what I just love learning from you. So thank you.
Yeah, I love it. And for me, it was that, and then this realization of like, yeah, it's like it's a holistic approach because we're not gonna just look at the one side, we look at the whole. And it's also like, you can have shapes in geometry, and depending on from what angle you look at it, it looks different. I mean, it can look a point, it can look like a circle, it can look like a triangle. I mean, a cylinder. So it's like we're really like looking at you as a whole. And I received a next level of clarity for myself, why I love this work so much, why it also has such profound results in my own life, working with my clients. And that's why I love having these conversations, because we didn't script it, we didn't plan exactly what to talk about. And That's the beauty of intuition, you know? And that's also why I'm so happy I choose it to call the Intuitive Human Design Teacher Training and Certification. That was a very important distinction because everything I do in my life, especially also in my business, is very, very intuitively. It probably goes a lot against the strategies and all the rules out there, but that's my secret to success. And I really want to help you tune into yours because that is that connection to highest self, God, source, universe. And I feel like human design can help you activate that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this conversation, Annalena. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you so much for listening. And see you, if you like, next week in the next episode. Bye bye.
Ciao, everyone.